Good evening, folks of Fayette County. We're coming to you tonight from the old Fifth Third Bank, the Channel 3 studio. We've really got an interesting program for you. This is totally different than what we usually talk about. Tonight I have as my guests on my right and your left will be Gabe Nobbe. Gabe,
hi.
Say hi to the folks.
How you guys doing?
And in the middle I have Alex Carroll. Alex may be new to you. He's the man that's starting the farms up north by Vistion. And we're going to hear a lot from him in just a little bit. And then many of you probably know Matthew Brichford. And Matthew's got the cheese factory down just south of town. So we got some interesting characters here tonight. And we're going to learn a lot. So first of all, I'm going to go through and Gabe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an ag teacher out at the high school. I'm one of two ag teachers. Been there for about 13 years, and we've had lots of other ag teachers come in and partner up with us and teach all kinds of classes, everything from animal science to horticulture to food science, and then some intro classes. I even teach a natural resources class. So
you're well-rounded. You've got a wife and some kids. And
yeah, I got a wife, and it's actually our anniversary today, 10 years today. So
well, I'm glad
happy anniversary, Meg.
Yeah.
And then I got two lovely kids, Emma and Cord. They're 4 and 5.
Good. And you got your anniversary, and your wife let you come down here and be on Connersville Speaks.
She was excited for me to come down here.
Oh, okay.
She's really excited.
And he didn't tell you, but he's famous because he's on the city council.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle, we have Alex Carroll, and Alex is new here. He just moved down here about 6 weeks ago, and I'm so proud that he wanted to move down here and become a part of our community. He's been a part for almost a year already. He's been taking part in things, and he's built the new building just north in the industrial park up there by the cul-de-sac. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Alex.
Well, my name is Alex Carroll. I have been in business for myself for about the last 25 years. Mostly, I originally grew up farming, so I hail from an agricultural background. In the mid-'80s to '90s, I started getting into the IT world. Done a lot in IT in the last 20 years. We're starting this new organic produce farm up by the airport here in Connersville. I think we looked a couple of years looking for the right place to put that. We were thrilled to finally be able to land in Connersville. And so that's about me.
And Alex has a lovely wife and 2 children, and he's been a great citizen, believe me, folks. And Matthew, you have deep roots here. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've only lived in Connersville most of my adult life, but my family homesteaded here back in the early 1800s, and I've been farming on my family's farm here. We've had a dairy since '95, and we've always been a seasonal grass-based dairy, but in the past couple of years we started making cheese as a value-added project, and that's working out pretty well for us so far.
Yeah, and you have...
My wife is involved in the cheese business, Leslie Jacobs, and my oldest daughter manages the cows and the calves. My middle daughter lives in Chicago and is an interior designer, but does a lot of our marketing. And my youngest is just started in graduate school in psychology, and she helps with demos when she can.
Yeah.
But,
so you have 3 children and a
yes.
lovely wife. Yeah, I remember your family, your grandmother and your grandfather, and Aunt Maisie.
Yes.
Yeah, she went to church with us, and she was a great gal.
Well, my middle daughter's named Maisie.
Is she?
So,
and Maisie, I think, was superintendent of schools at one time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think she was the first woman superintendent in the state.
Is she? Yeah. And she was quite a gal. Her and I served on several committees. We used to be on the cemetery board, and we would interview people and I'd say, Maisie, we're not allowed to say that. And she said, why not? You know, she was from the old school. We asked questions.
Inquisitive, yes.
And you come from strong roots, let me tell you. Okay, well, we want to get right into this thing. So, Alex, I'll go with you first. You're new here, and tell us about organic growing. Well, first of all, I want to say how you found us, or how we found you.
Well, like I said, we'd been looking for a couple of years for a place to put the start up. I've been successful at a few startups, and one of the things that you really have to be careful of is you can't take too much time making sure that all of the variables at the beginning are right, that at least you have a place where you have an opportunity to be successful. So we looked for a couple of years. We went from, Indianapolis to Anderson, thought about Indianapolis again, and a good friend of mine that lives very close to a piece of property that we own, Aaron York, who his parents moved here to Connersville many years ago, probably about 65, 70 years ago is when they moved here. And Aaron said, well, hey, I know the perfect place for you. And I think he got on the phone and gave you a call, and if I'm not mistaken, within a couple of days, he put me in the car and drove me over here. And so that's how it all got started.
I'll tell you the rest of the story. That summer, Aaron's high school class had a class reunion. And they asked me to come out and speak to the class reunion, which I did. And Aaron says, we need to get some things going. We need to be more diversified. He says, I'm going to find some things for you. And I thought, oh, sure, yeah, it's hard. Find some things. And it wasn't just a week or two until he brought you down. And he said, this is the man right here. And Alex has been in contact and now has moved his family down here. And so he's just done a great job. Tell us about, there's 16 acres up there that you're going to start on. Tell us about how you're going to do it.
Well, right now we're in the process of putting up the washing and packaging building. That's really where, once all of the produce is initially harvested, and it's all fresh produce, but once it's initially harvested, it'll be brought into the packaging building, washed, packaged, put on a semi, and hauled to Kroger or Meijer or someplace like that right away. So that's the by far most complex part of it. After that, we're going to start installing these hoop houses. I'm sure everybody's seen them before, and that's where the produce will actually be grown in. So it'll be near year-round produce farming.
You were telling me that in the future, government regulation is going to almost demand that, and that's why you're kind of ahead of the game here. Can you explain that to the people?
Sure. Well, so one of the things that we'll be working on is getting our USDA certified organic stamp for that piece of ground there by the airport. There's a lot of red tape and regulation you have to go through to do that. It's not an immediate process, but it's just one of those things that if you stay diligent, you'll eventually get it. The thing that you can say about organic, what that really means, it doesn't mean that you never use a chemical or you never do things in kind of a traditional farming method. What it means is that you have documented all of your inputs, so you know that your water's safe, you know that the herbicide you're using, if you have to, is USDA approved, you know that the insecticide is safe, and that's where a lot of people are really, that's the reason there's so much interest in USDA certified organic from a consumer standpoint, because the more educated the consumers become, the more they decide, well, I really want to know what went into that tomato that I'm getting ready to eat. How was it grown? And then the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has produced something, a set of regulations called the Food Safety Modernization Act. Food Safety Modernization Act, I believe, goes into full swing around 2018 to 2020, and it really puts restrictions down on fresh produce. And what they're looking for, what they're really coming down on, produce that you don't normally cook before you eat. So things like, sweet corn. Well, they don't really, you're not going to hear so much about the regulation on sweet corn because, generally we all cook it first. We're going to put it on the grill or boil it or something like that. That naturally kills off all bacteria. You're looking for things like, fresh salad mix, baby spinach, things that you would just kind of rinse off, put it in a bowl, and eat on it. They're getting really detailed about, are there any animals that ever came in contact with it? What are the things that might have transferred E. coli bacteria or Listeria bacteria to that stuff? So that is getting ready to become regulated law, and that'll be the very first in the produce world for United States farmers. That's going to be a little bit of a shock. When I was a kid growing up, probably a lot of you guys remember this, but when the EPA first came out and said, hey, those metal 5-gallon cans that you have that you're buying Treflan in, you can't just, throw them in the weeds. They need to be triple rinsed. They need to be this. They need to be that. And there was a lot of pushback and static about that. And this is EPA on steroids for what they're doing with the Food Safety Modernization Act.
Well, now, Matthew, you've been working down there, and I know you raise a special type of cow. It gives a lot of cream in the milk, isn't it? A Guernsey, or what is it?
Well, we have a composite breed that we've developed specifically for the pasture farming that we do, and also for the types of cheese that we make. And it's Jersey, and then 2 French breeds, Normandy and Tarentaise. And a couple of the cheeses that we're copying are made specifically with Tarentaise milk and in France. So, and that lends a particular taste to it. And so that's what we've developed over the years. They're also, because we don't feed any grain, we need a cow that's a little more robust than a straight Jersey, and we've developed these to do well on our grass-based diet.
Okay, so you've been working on this, and you've got the cow developed, you got the milk that you want. When did you go in the cheese business? I should know that, but
I started the dairy in '95, and I was thinking about making cheese for several years before that. So we've been always planning on it for a long time. But we were just selling into the commodity market, which was kind of one good year out of 3, and kind of bouncing along. And we decided that we needed to either quit or add value to our product, and so we opened up a little over 2 years ago. It took us a couple years to build it, and then
well, I don't want you to give your secrets away, but tell us how you make cheese, just in a simple way. How in the world
Well,
do you
there's
make
lots of different kinds of cheese, and there's not that many variables, but you can, as far as making it. But I mean, the different kinds of milk. We use just cow's milk, but we heat it. We add cultures to it. One of our little wash strain cheese. It's a stinky little thing. It's very creamy in the middle, and it's got a strong smell but a very smooth taste. It has 9 different cultures in it, and then some of our other cheeses are more simple, and they age longer to get developed. We add culture, and then we add rennet to coagulate the curd. We cut it. Cut the curd, and the size that you cut it regulates how moist the cheese will be. We stir it, and then one cheese we cook it fairly warm. Another cheese we drain the whey out and then add water and cook it in the water. And all these things give it different taste. But then our little wash strain cheese is just gravity pressure in molds, and then we flip those several times over the course of the afternoon and evening. And then our bigger cheeses go into a pneumatic press, and they're squeezed for 3 to 5 hours, depending on the type of cheese there.
So how much cheese are you making a day?
We generally make we make 2 different types at a time usually, and when we're at full load we make about 350 50 pounds of cheese. The yield varies throughout the year, depending on what stages of lactation the cows are in and what the feed is. Like in the fall, we have the yield bumps up quite a bit, so we're right around 13.5% yield on our milk, and industry standards someplace around 10.
So in the fall and winter, then you make grass hay for them to eat?
We make silage, round bale silage, haylage. We don't feed any grain. We do that in order to be with this strictly grass-fed diet, which is people are want that. It's a health niche market. The antioxidants that come with that diet, and so we're after that. It's also a cost savings measure. That we coordinate our cows' nutritional needs with the seasonal grass growth, and we do not milk in the winter. I mean, never say never. Last winter we did because of a glitch that we ended up having cows going longer, and it was the worst winter since we started, and I hope not to do that again.
We all hope that. So,
But
you freshen the cow then?
We freshen in starting in middle of March through June. I'd like to narrow that down, and then we dry off sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I know what that is because we used to have cows. My grandmother did. But explain to the people what it means to freshen a cow. And
well, that's
lactation.
when she has her in order to trigger lactation, she has to have a calf, and then cows peak in their milk production about 90 days after they've had their calf, and then they descend until they quit producing milk. In a normal herd and under conventional management, they go for 10 months, and I think it's like a 60 days that they're dry before they calve again. We budget like an 8-month lactation, 240 days, and
So you actually quit making cheese completely when they're dry then?
yes.
Okay.
And
You don't stagger
and
them.
then that's why I mentioned that, because you asked about what we feed in the winter. If we feed silage to our cows while we're during our cheese making season, we have problems with cheeses blowing up.
Well,
but
we used to, we had our own cows, and I grew up, my grandmother always had a cow. She usually had two when they milked. And in the spring, the milk would taste different. And my mother would say, don't pay any attention, it's the leeks. And I don't even know what leeks are. But up in Michigan where we came from, there were leeks in the spring that grew. And the milk did taste different.
Well,
what they're
wild onions will have an impact on that. When you're selling in the fluid market, people are more sensitive to that, and then in the artisan cheese market, people try and celebrate those things, how the onions give it a kind of a chocolate flavor or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's a real interesting thing, and we're so proud that you're here and doing this. And you got other plans. We're going to come back to you in just a little bit because I want to ask you a lot more questions. But Gabe, how do you fit into all this? You teach these kids how to plant stuff and grow stuff, and
We teach them a lot. I teach agriculture. That's our basis, is to teach about agriculture. And I tell the kids, up front, first thing I got to know about ag is it's applied science. So basically what it is, they take what they learn in biology and chemistry and physics, and we find an applicable place for it. And they're amazed about all the science that we talk about in class and in all the classes, and how that fits to real world situations. So depending on the class the kid takes, we have an introductory class that typically freshmen or sophomores take. And then from there, the kids can take a wide variety of classes. We got a couple of science classes. They're actually considered science classes, and they're dual credit through Purdue University. Food science, a plant soil science, and a animal science class we offer. And then we also offer some other dual credits through Ivy Tech, like horticulture, natural resources, and agriculture business. And then we also have some other classes which aren't dual credit and aren't the introductory, and they're like your basic animal science. Talk about various animal systems, talking about beef, cattle, swine, maybe talking about all the different industries: sheep, cows, chickens, even dogs and companion animals. And we also have a food science class as well. It teaches about how food's made up and the chemistry of food. So hopefully we kind of give the kids a well-rounded education of ag in a nutshell, and not just from the commercial standpoint, but all areas.
And you have that greenhouse out there where you actually put the kids, they grow things. And
Yeah. And you're talking about the horticulture class. That class is one where in the fall we do a lot of the more sciencey type things, or we'll do some smaller production type things. Like right now, my students are working on creating or designing their own hydroponics units. So they work in groups of 4 and they design their own. Then in the springtime, and actually we'll order plants here in probably next week. We'll plant I don't know, 10,000 annual plants. Everything from your marigold zinnias, one of your favorites, the vincas, and I'm trying to think of the other one, osteosperm. And we plant all those things. Then we have a big sale in the end, and that kind of.
He makes me go out there and stand in line with all those women, because I love those plants, and my wife has a water garden, and we plant those all around it. And in the summertime, it's just beautiful. And I would think, I'm the mayor, and he's a city councilman. Let me come out there and get those. Nope, you stand in line out there, and I stand in line and wait.
I like it. If my wife's got to wait, you got to wait.
Yeah, see, that's the way it is. So you fit in with these guys because you're interested in what they do.
Oh, absolutely. I just take for Matt, for example. One of my students actually works for Matt. And I'm hoping that maybe in a few years that we'll have students maybe working for Mr. Carroll here, and hopefully these kids can build an interest at the high school level, maybe go on, take that, become a little more successful, go to a university, a 2-year, 4-year, whatever, maybe even just technical school, and then hopefully come back here and use what they've learned and apply that to a business.
I have a dear friend. His name is Mario, and he owns the Mars Cheese Castle. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's just north of Milwaukee, on the Highway 43 or 90. They're all the same. And we've been friends for 40 years. And I always stop on the way up. He has a special cheese that he puts on the ham sandwich. Delicious. But he does millions of dollars in business, ships all over the United States. And when I started hearing about Matthew, we've been working with him through Diana, and I don't know what all we do down there, but we've helped you with some things. I know we've been doing it because she'll bring things in and show me. But maybe someday you could build a great big Mars Cheese Castle up here on 70, and man, it could be, they started there, and it's tremendous. It's just absolutely tremendous because cheese is a great big thing. It is a big thing. And of course, he has hams and sausages, which is going to bring us into. I know you have a dream of doing some sausages and stuff like that.
Well, we feed, I have a partner, John Godar, who's from here in Fayette County.
And he's a farmer, and he comes from a farm. Yeah. Like you are, yeah.
Yeah, and he's been in several other businesses and always wanted to get back to the farm, and he's there now. But together, he manages the hog end of it, but together we own a herd of Berkshire hogs, which are popular with chefs and butchers now because they are the old type hogs, have a lot of fat, they marble well, and fat is where it's at right now, so with these high-end chefs. And so we feed the whey and the unfortunate bad batch of cheese that we have occasionally to the hogs, and we have come up with a really good product both in the genetics of our hogs and that whey and cheese diet, and we market that through specialty butchers and the Smoking Goose in Indianapolis, that they do high-end charcuterie, pork sausage, and different products.
You're already doing that then?
We at this point in time we sell our animals hanging
to them.
Yeah. We've been looking at doing some of that value added ourselves here. It would require having a USDA inspected kill facility and also the processing facility in order to ship across state lines. It's with state inspected meat plants, you can't, if I take it to a local plant and have it killed under state inspection, I can't sell it across state lines, which is greatly limiting here with Cincinnati being our closest metropolitan market, and there's a lot of high-end restaurants there. With cheese, we're inspected by a state agency as well, the Board of Animal Health, but the FDA rulings, as long as we make a raw milk cheese, all three of our cheeses are raw milk, but as long as they're aged 60 days, you can ship them anywhere in the country. It's not the same as with meat, so meat has some more hurdles.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules. We're in the cheese business is the Board of Animal Health and the FDA, and we need a lot of regulation in order to keep food safe, particularly with there's a lot of people with raw milk and natural foods movement that kind of embrace more lax standards. And I think the key to having a good, healthy raw milk product is regulation that hits the right targets. It's not onerous or burdensome for the producer, but it ensures high quality milk. All cheese is a grade B product, and so we operate under grade B rules. However, the milk we produce would put us in the top 10% of grade A dairies as far as quality. That makes a big difference in the way our cheese tastes, its shelf life, and everything. And we're very aware of the fact that if we do something wrong, somebody can get sick or actually die from it. So you need to be very careful and keep a lot of records and do a lot of testing. We have a regular testing. The state requires us to test, but we above and beyond that, we test for Listeria is the big one we worry about, but we test for several other pathogens and monitor our quality all the time and swab throughout the plant and do that. So we need a lot of regulation to keep our food safe, but it shouldn't be burdensome.
Well, and there's got to be so many of us, and we damage our, that's what all of this separation of sanitary sewer and storm sewer is. That's going on in town here. It'll be 16 to 18 times that we have to open the valve and drop raw sewage into the river because our plant can't handle the storm water. Our forefathers never dreamed we were going to get this big and be this complex and put this kind of stuff down the drain.
Right.
And so they ran the storm water and the sanitary sewer all down in one line. And so now we're having to separate it so that the storm water goes directly to the river, and then the sewage will go down to the plant and we treat it. And that's what we're doing, and keeping that stuff off of plants and off of fish and all that stuff. Alex, I know you didn't come down here to take 16 acres and make it into lettuce and whatever the other salad mix is that you did. You came here because you have a dream to go much beyond that. Give us a little vision of your dream, of what you plan to do here in Fayette County.
Well, like I said earlier, I've been part of several, very successful startups. One of our kind of crown jewel companies right now is Lifeline Data Centers. We started that back in 2001 with 3,000 square feet, and a data center is a room where computers live. If you kind of think of a house or an apartment as a room where people live, data centers where computers live. And since 2001, we've developed and built Lifeline Data Centers into the state's very largest private data center. We have just recently closed on a building even up in Fort Wayne that brings us up to about 500,000 square feet. So we have a lot of experience in starting from nothing and just slowly, methodically working our way up. The one thing that we see about the organic produce world is that there's nobody out there really applying large-scale practices to the food chain. So, today, really, if you're Kroger or Walmart or Meijer or Marsh, you're going to rely on these big companies out of like California, like Earthbound and folks like that, to get organic produce onto your shelf, and you're going to hope to be able to supplement that with guys like us. What we need to do is we really need to turn that around. There is no reason whatsoever why Fayette County down the road cannot own the fresh produce this side of the Mississippi. I mean, that just needs to be our goal. There's really nobody else out doing it. There's no reason we can't take that. And so, yeah,
That's what you intend to do.
Yep.
Good. That's what you told me the first day, and you haven't deviated from it.
No, we're still just, a day's drive from 80% of the population, so there's no reason we can't take it.
I want to insert something here. Gabe is born and raised in Fayette County. Young man went to college. He's come back here, and he's teaching our young people, doing a great job. He takes part in government. He takes part in FFA. He does a lot of things. An example of a young man that went away, got his education, came back. Matthew, I know you got a degree. I think you went to college in Illinois, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I never finished high school. I'm pretty much self-educated.
Okay, because I know your dad was a professor.
Yes.
He's retired, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but although you didn't grow up here, you came back here because you saw a vision here of making a living here and being a part of this. You brought your wife, and she came from, where did she come from? I can't remember.
The western suburbs of Chicago.
Okay,
yeah.
and she came here. When we go out and talk to these companies, and we talk to people, and then we talk to a lot of young people, they'll say, well, nobody's going to come back to Connersville. What? There's no linen napkin restaurants there. We don't need linen napkin restaurants. This is our home. This is what we enjoy. When you think of our community, I know we've been hit hard with this heroin thing over the last few weeks. And it's not only here, it's all over. But we've been hit hard. But we're reasonably a safe place to live. We don't have murders. I was talking to a New York radio station because everybody's hammering us about this heroin stuff. And they said, well, how often do you have deaths down there? I said, well, we've had these heroin deaths, and the police tell me this heroin was laced with some bad stuff. Now, in my notion, every heroin's bad. It don't have to be laced to be bad. It's all bad. Because if you're by yourself and you take it and you don't know the dose you take it, you're going to die if you're alone. If you're there, you can call a first aid unit and they give you a drug and they bring you back around. But then it happens again and again and again. And I work with the police now for 7 years. I work with them every day, and I see what a struggle it is to take care of things. But our community is reasonably safe. It's a great place to live. Everybody has some sort of problems, but we don't have murders here. If you saw the paper in the last day, or I don't remember today or yesterday, we give more to charity than the county that's the richest county in the state of Indiana. Per capita, we give more to charity, us poor folks down here in Fayette County. So people like you, Dr. Yarian came back here. I can't name them all tonight, but they came back here to work. They came back here to live and this is a great example here tonight of people that are starting something, working with young people. Alex is not a local homegrown guy here, but he wants to be. He wants to grow lettuce here. So it's a great thing. We have the numbers up on the screen, John. I don't know if we got anybody that'll call in tonight, but we got the numbers up there. 825-3245. If you'd like to ask these gentlemen a question about growing or anything else you'd like to ask them. Probably the biggest question we'd get, Matthew, is can local people buy your cheese?
We don't have any retail presence locally, but they can. The closest place you can get it that I know of is at the Harrison Kroger. Jungle Gyms sells it. Whole Foods and Earth Fare in Indianapolis sells it. Most of what we do, most of our product is wholesaled from the plant. We work with distributors across the country. Our largest are in one in Chicago and one in Atlanta, Georgia, and then we're on the West Coast and on the East Coast, Northeast.
How do you ship your product? Do you have a shipper with reefers that you ship?
Yes. We do, we have pretty much 3 tiers that we market. First is wholesale, and that would be to large distributors. And we either have over-the-road truck companies come pick up at our plant, or we use Piazza Produce, so you see their trucks all over the state, and they take our cheese to their warehouse, and then the over-the-road people pick it up there and take it to wherever it's going. Then we have a second tier that's restaurants and cheese shops that are unable to meet distributors' minimums as far as weight or price, and we sell to a lot of restaurants that way. And then we did have a farm stand this summer and did some retail, but
Down on the
yeah,
on the
but
curve.
there's we are it's a high price cheese. Retails anywhere from around $20 to over $30 a pound, and so locally we have a lot of we have a devoted fan base, but we don't have enough business to justify a retail presence here. But hopefully it'll be in the Oxford Kroger soon. And I don't know if our Kroger, I mean, it's in Kroger's system, so we'll get it here.
Now, is this the type of cheese you'd put on a pizza, or the type of cheese you'd slice and put on a sandwich? Or what?
Yes, sparingly. We had a pizza parlor in Indianapolis that was using one of our cheeses a lot. It's more the type that's going to end up being on a cheese board. We have a lot of chefs that use it in creative ways. We've got a restaurant in San Francisco that uses it in a Mornay sauce that they dip stuff in, and they buy a lot of our Marabella, which is our.
You make 3 kinds.
At this point, we're adding another one here pretty soon, another wash rind cheese. But we're in a lot of high-end restaurants, and they use them in creative ways. Most of the restaurants that we're in are not selling a lot of cheeseburgers, so it's incorporated into like a risotto or something like that, or like these people making the Mornay sauce, or it's on a cheese board where there's small pieces of it. But
Alex, did you know we had a cheese factory here in Connersville?
Yes, I did. Good to meet you. It saved me the trip. But yeah. And Mayor, you said something. I want to go back and touch on it just a minute.
Sure, go right ahead.
About how, the media will hype anything and make you believe it is a freaking crisis beyond imagination. I just want to echo, Connersville is the last place that I can think of that I would consider a dangerous place to live. It is safe, the people are good, everybody's friendly. You're always going to have your, in every group of people, you're going to have your folks that cause problems, but man, they are the vast minority. And, that Connersville is not an unsafe place to be. You just can't believe the media hype when you hear it.
And I want to tell you, this man moved here from Carmel. And I'm not telling any secret. He came here, most people say, we want to live in Carmel. He wants to move, and he did. He moved from Carmel here. He wants to raise his kids here. And I think that's a great sales point for Fayette County.
Well, I got a story for you on that, a little joke.
Tell us.
Okay, so because I've had people ask me that before, right? Well, what are you thinking? And so the way we say it is, well, Carmel's a wonderful place, but if 4 people come to the stop sign at the same time, all 4 think they should go first. Well, here, everybody's trying to wave you on. Well, go ahead. So that's the difference between Connersville and Carmel.
Isn't that a great testimony? Isn't that great? Well, Alex, when you're operating, you've told us of your grand scale of things. What products do you? I know lettuce and.
Well, we're going to focus right now on things like baby spinach, spring mix, baby kale, baby arugula, baby chard. We are trying to push into starting microgreens and sprouts, but that's such a real specialty that probably the same thing you ran into over the course of time. It just takes time to get those specialty projects or products up into a market channel. You know, what I've told, we've talked with a few people at Purdue and stuff like that. There's a gentleman over in Greenfield, Roy Ballard, who's with the extension office, and you know, I was sitting in a conference one time that he was overseeing, and you know, like what I bring it down to is there's no one real place to go sell specialty cheeses. There's no one real place to go sell fresh produce. You know, well, when we were row cropping, you know, just grain cropping, it's pretty easy, man. You know, you get the combine, you harvest it, you put it in the truck, you take it to the granary. Those don't exist in the specialty and produce markets. There are all kinds of different places you have to touch base. So hopefully, too, over time, we'll be able to work with folks to help produce a way for you know, somebody that's just got 5 acres that they want to go make a living off of, you know, a way for them to be able to sell that produce into a channel.
The marketing is really important. It's all about relationships. That's something that we've learned over time, is that cheese distributors don't sell cheese, they distribute it. So if you win an award or get a restaurant that really likes you and carries your cheese, that has, you know, that pulls it through the distribution channel so much, and you've really got to go out and build that. My wife and our daughter Maisie do a lot of demos. You know, there's days when one's been in Atlanta or Virginia and one in New York or Boston at the same time, and so we go anywhere.
It's a family affair.
Yeah, well, but we will go anywhere, and Leslie was in Chicago. Well, we'll be in Chicago next week, and our Maisie was just spent 2 days in Austin, and
You go to a cheese show and show.
well, she was demoing cheese at Central Market, which is a chain of stores in Texas that carries our cheese, and doing those things and building those relationships really helps to sell the cheese, and if the people that are carrying our cheese know that how we feel about moving it, they're very interested in having it. Just like with our Whole Foods in Carmel, they've been very, very supportive of us and push it, and you know, they like to have a Indiana cheese to sell. So, we're price makers rather than price takers, which we were when we sold commodity milk. But it's a whole nother job, and it's a lot of work. But it's certainly, I mean, we're growing our business, and we're pretty much on target for where we want to be. But it's better than it was running a commodity dairy, both financially and it's certainly more interesting than waiting for a dairy check.
Diana was telling me that you something about a pasture. The pasture is so important that a lot of people just think, well, that's just a piece of ground, throw the cows up. But you really grow a pasture.
Yes, we like I say, we're 100% grass fed. It's like this organic, all these classifications. You've got to be careful, and I'm part of a movement that's like know your farmer, and we're not certified organic. I farm probably 95% of what I do is organic. There's several places where I fall off the organic wagon. I don't need that at this point in time for our marketing scheme. I can see with the hogs that perhaps we were considering getting them certified organic down the road. But for our market, the fact that we're an artisan cheese, which means it's done by hand in an open vat. We're farmstead, meaning that it's all our own milk, and it's grass fed. For our customers, those things are sufficient. We don't need the organic certification. But it is handy for something like he's doing here. That is that distinction that you've got to distinguish yourself from the rest of the crowd in order to.
And a lot of people today are looking for that.
But our what we exercise is what you call management intensive grazing, and that is perfected in New Zealand with their dairy and sheep industry, and brought to this country probably in the mid 70s by Alan Savory and Alan Nation, and where we move the cows well, at least daily, and sometimes more often, always to fresh grass. Our grass is our feed bunk, so we manage the type of grass that we grow, whether it's perennial grasses and clover mix, or we grow annuals in order to have forage to fill in gaps in our perennial pasture. We do supplement with molasses in order to, when we have energy deficient pastures, like at this time of the year, the grass has a lot of protein but it's low in energy, and so we supplement with molasses. But we manage our grass very intensively, and generally we'll graze it one day and we're back in about 3 weeks.
So how many people help you do all this?
I have 8 employees, about half full and half part-time, and then there's the 4, in addition to the 4 family members that are active in it. So, and we will probably add a few more when we start up next year. We recently received a USDA value-added producer grant that'll help us to expand a little bit.
I think that's the thing we helped you with, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, this was the thing that I did through the EDG was in relation to the meat.
Oh, okay.
And
That's right.
So we're looking at a proposal. We're looking at that.
Yeah.
But this was something fourth time we applied for. Fourth time's a charm. But so that'll help us to, like I say, we're adding another cheese. I mean, we can use it to pay our salaries, employees, and we're expanding a little bit. So.
And how many employees you intend to have eventually down the road, Alex?
We think that by the time we have that full 16 acres bumping along at capacity, we'll probably end up with about 20 with a mix of full and part.
It would be just great if we could get away from the automotive parts. They're wonderful, but they're too sensitive to the market. If we could get in, everybody's going to eat, but nobody's going to quit eating, and everybody wants better stuff and nicer stuff, and you guys are heading in just the right direction, because that's one thing that you can't quit doing. You can't quit eating.
Well, as Alex was talking about with smaller producers, I'm not sure how to flesh that out. It is very difficult. You have to be kind of boneheaded like I am in order to go ahead and try these things and throw yourself at it and come up to do it. Farmers are traditionally, take it to town and get a check, and it's a lot more work to do it. I personally think it's a lot more rewarding, but it's very difficult for a farmer, to be able to come up with the wherewithal to try a new product and grow a business like that. So there needs to be a lot of encouragement for that.
And Gabe over here has got the young people coming through there that are going to take an interest in this thing and may find you some good employees. Both
Well, I've had a number of Gabe students over the years, and then before Gabe, I've always had students from either co-oping or from the ag program. As long as we've had the dairy, we've always, over the years.
What do you do with the bull calves? Evidently, you can't make cheese with bull calves. What do you do with all the bull calves you have in the spring?
Some of them we feed out and sell, just as halves and quarters, and most of them we just sell into the commodity beef market. That's one thing, along with the hogs, that we hope to do a value-added thing on, because they're all grass-fed, and the dairy breeds definitely produce a much finer, higher quality meat than the beef breeds. Just not as much of it, and it takes longer to get there. But
it takes a long time to get there.
Yes, but there's nothing better than a fat Jersey.
Yeah. I've crossed some Angus with some Holsteins, and fat them out, and it just takes about 6 months longer. And
Right.
yeah,
Well, the higher the butter fat, generally the more tender the meat will be, you know, in the breed. So
when I used to do that, I did that for 20 years, raised my own beef, and I loved doing it. And then I got to be mayor. My wife said I lost a calf, and she got really hurt. And, she said, you can't be down there and be in town. You're going to have to decide what you're going to do. So I sold my cows. I had some really nice brood cows, and so I sold those, and I miss them. And my dog died, and all I got now is a few cats. But Gabe, what do you think of all this? This has got to be exciting to you.
Oh, it's very exciting to me, and I think as as it grows, our program grows, and it's a great opportunity for many of our students. I mean, I have a lot of students that have gone through the program over the years, and a lot of them have had unfortunately take positions other places, and I would love to see those kids have the opportunity to come back. And it's nothing makes me happier than when I see some of my former students get the opportunity to go get a degree at a college or training wherever, and have the opportunity to come back home to Connersville just like I did, and to live where they grew up, and to do what they're passionate about. And a lot of my kids are in that ag. So
I get to speak to a lot of kids, and I tell it's a whole lot better if you know what you want to do in life and go get an education to meet it.
absolutely.
Than it is to just go out and get some general education, then you don't know what to do with it. And I think we ought to push that in the schools from the time kids are young. My brother couldn't wait to retire. He worked at GE. He was an electrician over there. He counted the days till he got to be 62. Well, in about 2 weeks, I hate to tell this, maybe I should whisper, but I'll be 72. And I don't want to quit. I don't want to retire. I don't want to end.
It's funny you say that. We actually have a program called Supervised Agriculture Experience, where every kid has to do at least 5 to 10 hours outside the class or outside school, where they research a career and find something they're passionate about. We also have a contest called Career Development Events that kids learn about specific careers. They could be related to soils, they could be related to animals, they could be related to crops, they could be related to all kinds of things agriculture related, to help them find their passion. And through the combination of the SAE, the Supervised Ag Experience, where kids can go and work for places like Matthew and or go and job shadow a seed salesman, they truly find their passion and what they're really excited about. And once they find that, college is easy. And the grades get so much better, and the dropout rates are non-existent. So I mean, once they find that passion, what they really, really enjoy, it's amazing what they can do.
Yeah, I know my daughter graduated this year, and she went to the hospital and did an internship. She thought she wanted to do ultrasound. She thought she wanted to do this. And then she researched and found out there was such a thing as music therapy. And she took 3 or 4 classes of music. That's all she wanted was music. She plays the guitar, and she plays the piano, and she sings. And she woke me up one night, 11 o'clock at night, and she said, "Dad, I'm not going to Ball State." I said, "What do you mean? We already paid the money. What do you mean you're not going up there? That's where you wanted to go." She said, "I'm going to University of Louisville." She said, "I've already got online. I need $50 deposit." I said, "It's 10 o'clock at night." She said, "I still need it." And she did all of her own signing up, and she got in this music therapy program, and she loves the program. Now, she hates her dorm. She said, "I hate living in that little shoebox." But she loves that music therapy because that's her passion, and that won't be work to her.
Yeah,
And
that's key.
that's key. It really, just like Matthew's passion, and he's got a couple of passions here. Alex, he's got these, and I visited his call center in Indianapolis. He tell a home for computers, it is cleaner and nicer than an operating room.
Yeah.
It is magnificent, and the security in there. Well, you do a lot of work for the city of Indianapolis, don't you? Or you're not allowed to tell that.
Well, we've got customers, both government and private sector, up and down the food chain, and our customers store some pretty significant data at that location.
But he took us through there, and we toured that when we first got acquainted. It is absolutely something. You see it on TV. Nobody could ever dream what it is. So I know what he can do here.
one thing I would add to the education part of it is that in this alternative marketing stuff, communication skills are are hugely important, and being able to relate to people and assess where society is going as far as what your market is, and sometimes if you're a little on the too technical side, you can miss a lot of that.
Yeah.
So being able to, with the alternative food market, you need to know what people want. It's just like with BST that we used in cow milk. You know, it was consumer demand that drove that why it's not there anymore. Most of when I was still with the Dairy Farmers of America co-op, most of their customers for their fluid milk market did not want BST.
What is BST?
Bovine somatropin. It's the growth hormone that they gave to cows, that a Monsanto product called Posilac. It gave more, produced more milk, yeah, but there was a big health buzz about it. People on either side saying you can't prove it or whatever, but the consumer demand said we don't want it.
So
you
we
know,
see
so the argument is irrelevant because people don't want it. It's just like with the organic produce. Coming from that environmental awareness that started in the late 60s and 70s up until now, the demand is there. I mean, organic is only 4 or 5%, or maybe even less than that, of the total food market, which is $140 billion or something like that. But it's fairly significant. I could use a
Yeah, it's significant. It's definitely significant.
But it's consumer demand that drives that, and so being able to read society and where it's going, will help you with the marketing.
I think we're all more careful what we eat anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
And if you watch just the advertisements and how places are marketing, you can see that there's a huge growing demand for that. So at school when we're talking about things, we take all kinds of different contests and things, and we typically pick controversial topics for like a contest we do. And one of the things the kids are looking at this year is sustainable farming and urbanized farming. So like maybe growing your own food, kind of like Matthew said just a second ago. Know your own farmer. How do you know yourself any better than if you're growing it yourself? So people are doing more of that, and it's important for the kids from our standpoint to see that it's not just use these large corporate farms or just large farms that maybe farming 5,000-6,000 acres of row crops. It can be something very small, and you're producing food.
yeah, well, I've done that most of my life. We produce the vegetables and everything. We only got 2 or 3 minutes now. Let's start with you, Gabe. Speak into that camera and say anything you'd like to tell them tonight.
Well, I'm glad to be here. If you get an opportunity to come see our plant sale in the spring, that'd be great. That's really about all I got. I really enjoy the opportunity here, and I think Connersville's on the move, and I'm really excited to see what lies in the future.
Alex, give us your perspective real quick.
Well, I guess first and foremost, very, very happy to be a member of the Connersville community now. We look forward to many decades of productivity here. So that's kind of where we're at.
Matthew?
Well, I enjoy.
Isn't your wife on the school board?
Not anymore.
Okay, well, I knew she was at one
She's
time.
been very active.
I know she's been active in a lot of things, and I didn't want to miss that.
She's done a lot in this community.
Yeah.
And
Liza is what daughter is she?
she's my youngest.
She's
Eliza.
the youngest. She and Scotty went to school together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
that's
Go right
fine.
ahead.
No, I'm happy and proud to be the next generation of my family on the farm here, and I do like working with the youth of Fayette County. I've had a lot of kids work for me over the years. Some didn't work out as well as others, but I would like to encourage people to, like Gabe's talking about, go get that ag degree and come back and farm and do different things, and we can change our food supply and our economy that way.
I want to tell you, folks, it's been a great evening tonight talking to Gabe, our resident teacher, Alex Carroll. We're so proud that you chose to come to our community. And Matthew, we're really proud that what you're doing out there. And I think more people will recognize that little green building on the curve. Every time I go by, I have to look, see what's going on. Next month, it will be really something special. Our own Fran Schoma will be here with the basketball coach, and he'll be here to give you a fine show. So until next time, when Connersville Speaks, come back and see us. Thank you and good night.